All right, joining us now is SIU spokesperson Kaizer Kganyago to give us more insight on this report. A very good evening to you, Ntate Kganyago. Thank you so much for your time. So you mentioned earlier that more investigations are ongoing. How far back does this investigation go, and how widespread is the corruption within the Department of Home Affairs?
Thank you very much, and thank you to your viewers. This investigation is starting in 2004, ending in February 2024, which spans a period of about 20 years. Therefore, there's a lot of work that our investigators have to go through, sift all the visas that were issued during that time, and that is really a mammoth task that they have to do. Yes, we have found that there were few individuals within the Home Affairs Department that were involved in this shenanigans, and they were the ones that were causing all of this havoc, where some of them, for example, within a very short space of time, a person would be approving over almost 500 study visas alone. Therefore, that is the kind of corruption that we found in the Department of Home Affairs.
And with those officials, as spokesperson, is it a large number of them that are sitting at our borders that are helping to process these fraudulently?
It is a difficult one to say now, because the investigation is still going on, and we're hoping to finish sometimes in September this year. But with the ones that we are having now, it doesn't look like it's a lot of them, but obviously when we go further, we will be able to understand how big the rot has been, and then we'll be able to then indicate a clearer picture. But for now, it is just a few of them who were doing the shenanigans of selling the visas and giving it to the people that were paying the monies and ultimately benefiting by buying properties and so on, and living a lavish lifestyle.
So, I mean, the investigation implicates not only that small number of officials that you speak of, but also those external actors, that being the pastors, the religious leaders, as well as foreign nationals. How do these external influences exploit these systematic weaknesses within our processes?
Obviously, some of them, even before they came into the country, they were made aware that there are officials that can work with them, and they always targeted those people. Some of them will come into the country, use the process of marrying the South African, divorce that person, and marry somebody who comes from their own country. The others will then target visas like retirement visas, and then use it as a stepping stone towards. And others will then come with falsified documentation, like in the Bushiri matter, where he came here as on a holiday visa, ended up staying here. He used some of the people that were members of his church who are working at Home Affairs to then approve certain things, even though he has provided falsified information. For an example, you would need, for a permanent residence, you would need to show that you are economically viable. Then he will use the funds of the church and the books of the church as if they are his own, and they were then approved by members of his church who are working for Home Affairs.
So would you say that the high-profile cases that you mentioned, such as that of Bushiri, Omotoso, as well as Mpofu, are there common patterns amongst them in terms of how they operate and they find those systemic vulnerabilities within the system?
All of them have got the same pattern, because that's what I'm saying. It is clear that they knew that there are some people who are vulnerable that they can buy, so that they are able to do that. And it is because some of the people, for example, a person who's a chartered accountant signed the documents to say that the documents that Bushiri is producing are verified. And they paid you 500 rand, and then now you're going to lose your whole profession of being a chartered accountant for 500 rand. That doesn't make sense to us, but the modus operandi is the same. And as I say, the 2 and 3 people that we have, 4 people that we've indicated are not the only ones. Like with the pastors, there are many other pastors that we are looking at. We just didn't put their names up because we are still verifying certain things on their investigation.
I mean, here we're speaking about fraudulent documentation. I mean, fabricated documents such as fake retirement confirmations, manipulated DNA samples. How are these falsifications undermining the integrity of our country's immigration system?
They were at the time, because obviously there are people that are in the country that are not supposed to be here, and therefore it then filters into other areas of the work, where in education, for example, you'll end up with matches of people saying, people who are not South Africans are given priority. When only to find that some of those people have been granted permanent residence and they are South Africans, even though their processes of doing that was not done properly. It goes into health. These people who go into our health system, it affects a lot of other things that are happening in this country. Therefore, it is important that it is napped on the butt and then make sure that this doesn't happen. And that is what Home Affairs clearly indicated today, to say they are automating the systems to make sure that things that have happened before should not happen again.
I mean, you touched earlier on that some of these officials are low government, in terms of like a level 8 of the government officials. Therefore, they themselves are earning modest salaries, but are amassing a disproportionate amount of wealth in relation to how much they're actually earning. When we look at the picture in a broader sense, spokesperson, could we say that the level of the poorest borders that we are seeing in South Africa could directly be correlated to the actions of these individuals?
No, definitely. It's not only these individuals, because most of the ones that we're dealing with now are in head office. They are dealing with the transactions of permanent residence and the visas and so on. But there are also those that are at the borders, and we are working through the Border Management and Anti-Corruption Forum, where we are looking at the actions of some of the individuals who get bribes and so on for people and goods to pass through the borders. Therefore, it's still a bigger chunk of work that we are busy with.
So lastly, maybe just before I let you go, based on these findings, if we're looking at preventative measures, what specific reforms or measures does the SIU then recommend in order to strengthen the integrity and the security of our immigration system?
Yes, in our report, we have given what we call systemic recommendations, among, just to cite a few, that there must be lifestyle audits done to all the officials, and there must be systems that are put in place. The electronic system must be overhauled. Just to give a simple example, there are instances where we find that these foreign officials, foreign nationals, come and bribe somebody to go and put their fingerprints there, and then when their information comes up, then they go, as when they're applying for a passport, they go to the next window where they are going to do the picture, and then they swap with this person to say, now we put our own person there, they pay the official. When the passport comes, it has got my details, but it has got somebody else's picture, and they use that to travel. Therefore, all of those systems must be automated to make sure that the right people are the ones that are going to have our own passports and so on, so that the legitimacy of our document is maintained, because if that is not done properly, it will be problematic. Therefore, all of those recommendations, there are about 19 of them. We have put them up to the department, and they have already started implementing most of those recommendations to make sure that going forward, we don't find ourselves here again.
All right. SIU spokesperson Kaizer Kganyago, thank you so much for your time and just unpacking this for us on the visa fraud and corruption investigations that have taken place within Home Affairs and some of those reforms and recommendations made by the SIU.